Okay, on this video, we've put everything together. We have all these silver bolts in. We started off by putting these little black bolts to line the frame up. Then we moved on to these 4 silver bolts here on each side of the wings. And then we ended up crunching the frame together and putting in the remaining silver bolts. And now the bird looks pretty solid. So there's 6,000 million bolts to put in the sides here, small black bolts. So those take a long time. For that, you want the small Allen wrench, and you want to get to it. The largest problem around here is finding a small Allen wrench. We have all the bolts ready to go. There it is. We have a small Allen wrench. We got lots of little black bolts that came in the kit. There are the small black bolts. And we're just going to put them in. I like to put the bolts in these little wing struts first, because those help align the frame. So I'm going to put bolts in the wing struts first. There's probably 40 of these or so, or 30 bolts to put in. These do take about 15-20 minutes. I wouldn't recommend using a power drill or anything to do this. I just use a little Allen wrench, which hurts your fingers actually after a while. Especially if you crimp a wire and you have to take it apart again. It's really, really painful. So you don't want to crimp or slice a wire. You just want to do this right the first time and be done with it, right? And especially you put the motors on, you gotta unsolder those to get it apart again. It's terrible. Okay, we got 4 bolts in that little ring strut there. We're gonna put 4 bolts in this one. So this whole job probably takes me about 3 hours, I think. It does take some time. I've only done, well, I've done this, twice now. This is my second time, I guess. Second time through, but I had to pull this thing apart a few times because I sliced the wires putting it together, so I learned to be very diligent with watching where the wires go when you assemble the frame. So we did this on the video. We were very careful, and hopefully this thing's going to turn out just fine. Now we have 8 screws in the side of the wing. On the struts, we got 4 screws here, 4 screws here. Turn the bird around, and we're going to put in 8 more, 4 per quadrant. And see how this goes. Okay, there's 1. And I do these diagonally. I guess it doesn't matter. Probably from doing cylinder heads on engines. It's a bad habit I have, or a good habit. Okay, so let's get the second one in here. Doesn't seem to be going in. So, looks like a small, oh yeah, so I have an alignment problem here, look at that. So in this case, the frame is not together, so I'm going to pull this bolt out. Probably should be careful and go through this thing and make sure this frame is all together. So I'm actually going to back these bolts out. And we'll have to click the frame together here where it didn't go together. So I didn't really do a final check on that. And if you don't do a final check, this is what you get. So as you can see here, I run into problems with the frame not lining up in this one spot. So the trick is going to be to bend this around. I can't seem to get the screw to come out. There it is. It screws out. Now, as you can see here, there's a gap right here. I can put my finger in the gap. I can put the Allen wrench in the gap, you can see, so you don't want a gap there, so we have to get rid of that. Let's make sure there are no gaps around the airframe. Well, none there, there's one there. No gap here, no gap here. These are all screwed in, so we're good. So our only trouble area is right here. So I can see there's no wires in the way. And it looks like if we push the frame over this way, it's going to snap right in. Let's try it out. The top of the frame has a protruding, I would say a protruding stud, and the bottom is a receiver, so that has to be in there. It's not. Let's move it and get it back in there. There. Here's the snap. It snapped in. So now we can proceed again safely. So that bolt not going in was a telltale sign that we had problems with our alignment. So as you can see, when you crack this thing up, it's really a bummer because it's a lot of work to get it back together. It's a lot of work. So if they charge $60 an hour and this takes 3 hours, it's going to be what, $180, $200 or something to put this thing back together. So the airframe cost about $77 shipped to me from Multicopters in Castle Rock, Colorado. So what am I saving here? Maybe saving $130 or something? I don't know. Is it worth the aggravation? I don't know. I suppose. So let's get this together. I think there are inherent risks in flying these things anyway as far as crashing. So the trick is you just to enjoy it. You just want to be careful and not crash. Maybe flying a safer flight is not as enjoyable as flying something that's turbulent and risky, but yet you don't have to go through rebuilding it. So I guess I'm going to try and just have fun with it in smart mode. Angle mode's good, but in smart mode, the 20-foot fence thing will confuse you. So in smart mode, if you walk toward the bird, it will back away and sometimes back into a tree. And that's what happened to me with the first crash. So I would like to see smart mode have a 0 fence on it, or a 5-foot fence or something, not a 20-foot or 30-foot fence. So you could try probably setting it to 0 in the GUI screen and see if you can do that. I doubt it, but you never know. The other thing about this thing is if you're in a no-fly zone, it's not going to fire up. So I have to get in the car and go for a ways to test this thing and see if it even works. So now the 4 bolts are in each side of the wing. We have those in. There's some little tricky bolts that are on these little struts here, so those will be next. We'll put those in. And it's coming along pretty well. No real surprises yet, which is a good sign. Okay, we have this bolt in. Let's put in this one here. There it goes. And we'll do the other side now. Do everything in pairs. So I suppose they do big airplanes like this at Boeing with a checklist. Here we're not using a checklist, just out of memory. And so let's do another one. So that completes the 4 corners of these struts. These struts will also fracture when this thing wrecks, which is a bummer. When I wrecked last time, this strut came loose, this broke, this part here was alive and good with a crack here during my second wreck. And my third wreck in the same tree, this thing hit and it cracked off. So that was the end of my flying adventure. So now we're going to put in the remaining bolts on the sides of the wing. And the motors, I assume, are all lined up. I'm looking at the motor bolts there. They look good. So yeah, I think we're safe to do that. Let's do that. So let's get these 4 in here. 2 per side, 4 per side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's put those in. And then we're going to move on to the motor bolts. And that's going to do it for bolting the frame together. Everything else is done. And next thing we're going to bolt in are the motors. Those aren't too bad. You don't want to put the motors in too tight. I think that cracks the frame. You don't want the motors in there wobbling around, because that'll crack the frame from plastic fatigue, but you don't also want to have the bolts real tight that you're going to put torque on the frame from the motors being over tightened. There is a rubber grommet and plastic in there to keep the motors from vibrating, but still, you don't want to make them too tight. It's just not a good idea. I don't have much flight time in this frame to even have frame stress because I crash a lot, so I guess if I get fatigue on my motors, that's a good thing. That means I've been flying for many hours and I've not crashed. So the people that complain about fatigue on their airframe are really good pilots that have a lot of hours on the motor spinning and causing imbalances from bad propellers or whatever. So here we've put in these outer screws to the airframe. They're all in. We have screws in from the inner pillars going out. So at this point now, all of our little black screws are in the airframe. All these black screws are in. Here and here and here. Here, 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 here. They're all in here and here and here and here. Of course you want to check and make sure you don't forget anything. They're in here, they're in here, they're in here. Now we have 4 screws each on these motor pods to put in, and that's going to be it. So let's do it. Doesn't really matter which one you start with, as long as the motors are lined up, pods are lined up, the pieces are good, it will go right in. These are the same screws we use for the airframe, so it's no big trick. There's 4 screws per motor pod. And in they go. So I know my camera records a 20-minute video, and the camera hasn't clicked off yet, so this hasn't been 20 minutes yet, so I guess we're under the 20-minute mark so far on this part of the rebuild. Now this motor pod has 4 screws in it holding it together, 4 little torque screws here. Let's go on to the next motor pod. Put in 4 screws to the next motor pod here. So what's left? Well, gotta put the latch on the battery door. Gotta put the gimbal mount on. We'll put this thing on sometime here. Make sure the battery door clips. And put the little on-off switch on. And that's gonna finish up the frame. Then we're gonna want to solder on motors, which we'll want to mount the motors first. That'll be next. So next we're gonna mount motors. And then we're gonna work on soldering them, the ESCs in. And after that we're going to use the GUI to set the ESC to the proper quadrant of the copter. We'll align the accelerometers, we'll align the compass, and the bird will be ready for a test flight. I'll also put on unbreakable propellers that I got from Carolina Drones that don't break when they hit things. So in case the drone is not right and it pops up and flips over, we're going to make sure the propellers don't shatter. And of course you want to run each motor. So I had a bad ESC board once on this thing where I bought it from eBay and I tried to run each motor and the capacitor on the ESC board smoked up. And I threw the ESC board out and used another spare I had, so I'm not sure. I probably think that ESC board got damaged in the mail. Probably the mailing machines that read the envelopes crushed the capacitor. I don't know, but I didn't ask for a refund. I just threw the thing out. No time for messing around like that. Okay, so this motor pod's done. We got 4 screws in here. Looks like we got 2 motor pods to go. Let's go back to this one here. We should have 8 screws in our pile here left. So as you can see, this is laborious. Looks like my cam is still recording, so you're still with me. We got 3 more screws to go in this motor pod. Anyway, if nothing else, I doubt you've carried along this far in the videos. You probably just want to get certain things out of these videos, but if you've watched these all the way through, this shows you how much work there is in putting this thing back together. It takes me about, I think, 3 hours actually, maybe 2.5, 3 hours. And when I try and rush it, I screw it up and I have to rework it. So this time I didn't rush it. Maybe being on camera was a little annoying, but if I can help people do this, it's a good feeling. If the community sticks together, then we all learn from each other, which is the way life should be. That's how it was in the old days. Okay, so let's go back to this 4th motor, and looks like I got a few screws left over here, so we'll see if we missed any. So I'm going to put 4 screws in this motor. Looks lined up. It's not going in. Let's take a look at the motor. Looks lined up. I'll try a different hole here. It's not going in because I have screws in there. So let's see. I did that one. This one has screws in it. This one has screws in it. This one should not. It does. Okay, well, I wasn't paying attention and I got all the motor pods done. So let's now take a look for black screws and make sure they're all in here. So I can see there's black screws in the motor pod. There's screws in the frame. There's screws all through here. Let's check the black screws in here. They're in. They're in. They're in here. They're all here. They're all here. They're all here. They're in this motor pod. We have black screws in here. They're all in this motor pod. I know they put them in here. Let's check. They're in here. They're in here. We got screws. Yeah, they're all in. So I don't think we missed any. That's it. And I have a few left over, which is disturbing. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 screws left over, so that's always a bad sign. But maybe they gave us some extras. I doubt it, but who knows? Looks like I did miss a screw. No, I didn't. Okay, well this looks to be done. Let's see if we can put on the gimbal mount. So the gimbal slides on this way, and this thing locks it in place, right? So I think this goes on like this. It wouldn't go like that, so let's put it back on. We've got 3 screws we need, 1, 2, 3. And those look to be of a smaller variety. There, that's on there. What do we have left here? We got some wing screws. Those are probably standard wing screws, I think. Well, here's some short ones. I found some really short screws in here. Let's see if it's those. I wouldn't think those would be long. So these are silver. The size of wing screws, but they're silver. You know what? I'm going to put black screws in there. I'm not going to put in silver screws. Okay, here's some black wing screws. Are these different than the silver ones? Let's see. The threads have to be the same. They look the same. The wing screws are a bit longer. I think to err on safety and not break anything, I might want to put in these short silver ones. I'm not sure. Of course, your camera hangs on this thing, so you don't want to mess this up. You don't want your camera falling off.